The Middle East is going absolutely crazy. On Sunday, news emerged that a US Navy F-18 warplane had been brought down in the Red Sea. The US CENTCOM, which controls that area, came out with a very early statement saying that the aircraft had been brought down in a friendly fire. The two pilots were rescued with one getting minor injuries. The US CENTCOM further clarified that the aircraft which was flying from the carrier group USS Harry S. Truman had gone for an operation in Yemen against the Houthi rebels and was returning when a missile fired from the missile frigate carrier USS Gettysburg fired at it mistakenly and brought it down. Now, let us first understand what the F-18 is before getting into the details and what makes this incident very interesting from a geopolitical perspective. Now, the F-18s are a primary fourth generation warplane which has been in active service with the US Navy and the Marine Corps since 1985. It has had a lot of upgradations and it carries a pilot along with a weapons officer. The F-18s come equipped with an enormous amount of detection and defensive capabilities to avoid being shot down. Systems such as ALE-47 countermeasures dispenser help deflect incoming missiles by delivering the aircraft survivability from incoming infrared and radio frequency guided missiles. Other systems like the ALE-50 towed decoy, which protects the aircraft from radar guided missiles, have become essential in ensuring the F-18s of the US Navy's fleet to remain dominant in the unfriendly skies around the world. Then there are subsystems such as the Multifunctional Information Distribution System MIDS and the Joint Helmet Mounted Queuing System that all help the F-18's crew to have a state-of-the-art situational awareness. Overlaid with all these defensive and detection systems is the fact that the F-18s participate in a complex interplay between themselves and the carrier group that they are deployed from. Basically, there are multiple factors that are put in place to prevent friendly fire. Now, all this makes the bringing down of the F-18 from a very friendly fire highly improbable. Now, let us get into the reasons behind the hostile fire and which are the forces behind the hostile fire. Now, we need to remember that the US and the British forces have been hitting Houthi targets in Yemen, and this F-18 was one such aircraft which was returning back to its carrier group after bombing Yemen. Now, the Houthis have been basically disrupting shipping in the Red Sea and the Bab al-Mandeb Strait using drones and strategic missiles. Now, who are the Houthis? The Houthis are basically a proxy group being used by the Iranians to ensure that the US deterrence in the region and the Israeli deterrence is basically under control. So the Houthis, they are in a civil war in Yemen since 2003. They are basically a minority Shiite group which has been fighting the Sunni leadership in Yemen. The Houthis till 2014, till they captured Sana'a, which is the capital of Yemen, were in possession of small weapons and a few varieties of heavy weapons. But since then, Iran has been supplying them with missiles, drones and a lot of rocket abilities. And it has also supplied the Houthis with the A2 by AD capabilities. Now, what is the A2 and AD capabilities? We need to understand because it has larger implications for the world scenario. While there is no set definition for A2 AD capabilities, a 2016 conference report from the NATO Defense College proposes the following definition. The objective of an anti-access or area denial strategy is to prevent the attacker from bringing its forces into the contested region or to prevent the attacker from freely operating within the region and maximizing its combat power. This explanation seems to characterize the A-8D capability as mainly defensive in nature, whereas in 2003, the Center for Strategic Budgetary Assessment defined A-8D as anti-access or enemy actions which inhibit military movement into a theater of operations and area denial or operations that deny to freedom of action within areas under enemy's control. Now this seems to be offensive in nature. A2AD includes anti-ship, anti-air and anti-ballistic weapons, submarines and other naval and aerial capabilities, all integrated into a defense designed to prevent foreign militaries from projecting power into their areas. The A2AT capabilities were developed by the Soviets during the Cold War, and the Chinese have become the master of A2AD, even surpassing the Americans. Now, the Chinese have been supplying the Iranians with the A2AD capabilities, which in turn is supplying the Houthis with the capabilities. So this is what is this is doing is basically the US has been using the naval power, the Mahan theory, using the naval power to project power beyond its territories. It is said that a country which has a strong naval power is able to project power and gain influence around the world, which the US has been doing. But with the usage of the A2AD capabilities, the strategic balance is slightly shifting towards the defender who has got these capabilities. Now we need to understand from an incident which happened in May of this year itself, when the USS carrier Dwight D. Eisenhower was nearly hit by the Houthi anti-ship ballistic missile, which came nearly 200 meters within hitting the Eisenhower. So the A2AT capabilities are changing the paradigm of warfare in the naval region. Now let us compare the friendly fire and the hostile fire. Now the Houthis, if the friendly fire theory is to be believed, and maybe we have no reason to discount the theory, because the US, they have said that they will be investigating. Now if that theory is to be believed, even then the Houthis will claim success, because such mistakes happen when the systems, when the operating system, the carrier groups are under a lot of pressure. So maybe under a lot of drone attacks and then missile attacks, when these things happen out either in panic or mistake. So the Houthis will claim that they have been putting pressure to the extent on the US that it reacted in mistake. Now if the hostile theory is to be believed, it makes it even more worse, because then it shows that the Iranian system is basically able to penetrate the defensive and the detective capabilities of the US forces. This again has huge repercussions, because then we need to understand that the Chinese are watching these developments very closely. The Chinese are pretty close to invading Taiwan. I hope we all remember that in December 2023, when Xi Jinping met President Joe Biden, he very categorically told President Biden that they will reunify Taiwan either through peace and if required through force. So China is basically using A2AD capabilities and testing them through the Houthis against the Americans. They are perhaps taking note, taking calculations of the US attacks and the counter attacks, and the signatures being sent out. So this is all data driven for them. They are preparing for the day, if it comes, that the Chinese invade Taiwan and the US is forced to intervene. Because there have been a lot of war games being played in the US, which are basically being balanced out with a lot of forces. Some of the war games show the US winning, some show the Chinese winning, but whatever the case might be, the US suffers a lot of damage during those war games also. So the Chinese are preparing, the Chinese are watching. Now we need to watch this space very closely, and we need to understand, because we cannot isolate the Middle East from the larger game being played in the world. The world, it seems, is very close to a major conflict. If you like the content, kindly like and subscribe to this channel. Thank you.